Okay, guys, thank you so much for coming on to my YouTube channel. This is Sarah. I'm at Instagram at carnivore.yogi. Today I have a friend of mine, a virtual friend of mine who I feel like I know him already, but this is one of the first times we've actually chatted. His name is Mike, and he's on Instagram as Magic Mike Keto. Super positive, lots of great energy. It's another reason I want to bring him on here. And he has an awesome transformation story. So, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Excited to
Yeah.
have our chat today.
Awesome. So tell everyone a little bit, talk about your health journey. I know that you did keto for a while, but I know you've struggled with gout. You had some weight that you lost, a lot of weight that you lost. Made quite a transformation. I'll be sure to flash a picture up of your amazing transformation, but just tell everyone a little bit about your health journey.
Yeah, so I grew up, if I go all the way back, grew up just eating the standard American diet. When I was younger, I was in that mentality of being able to basically eat whatever I want and then go to the gym and work it off, right? And then
Yeah.
spend hours and hours. Looking back at it now, when I was younger, I think I was more, your body's more resilient. You can,
Mm.
your metabolic flexibility and everything like that. I think it's a little bit more resilient. So I was able to get away with that for a while. And, as I got older, I just noticed that um, that wasn't working anymore.
Mm.
So that's where I had a little bit of weight gain. I would lose it. So there's a lot of yo-yo uh, weight loss there and weight gain. And where I really started to gain significant amounts of weight was my wife at the time when she had her first child. I gained weight
Ah,
along with her.
the
Uh,
sympathy eating, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Sympathetic weight gain, right? So, and at that time too, right at the beginning of her pregnancy, I was trying to get into a little bit of the bodybuilding I was into. So I was getting into, and this was more of like the old school mentality of you have to do the bulking and then you do the cutting type. But I just got stuck in that bulking phase and never got into like the cutting phase because that kind of got off track with the whole pregnancy and everything. So I just gained a ton of weight. I'm about 5'7", and I went from my average weight was around 170, and I got all the way up to like 215, 220,
Wow.
which was a significant amount of weight. And I definitely felt it, meaning that I lacked the energy. And looking back at it now, I just felt like I was in like a bubble of just like not just from like a weight standpoint, but just like the health and energy and everything like that.
Mm.
Compared to where I'm at now, it's like a complete 180.
Yeah.
Um, so after we had our first child, I decided to lose that weight. I needed to shed those pounds because I was gaining a lot of weight, and I went through different protocols. I was still with that same mentality of the calories in, calories out. So I would spend countless amount of hours at the gym, working out, running on the treadmill, which I had some slight success there because, I was expending some of those calories, lost some weight. But if I slipped up and I just started eating more than I exercised, I would gain that weight right back. So
Wow.
it would be back to square one, where I eventually stumbled upon, doing like a vegan diet.
Oh, really? I didn't know you had dabbled in the
Yeah,
veganism.
absolutely, absolutely. Because a little bit more of my history, not to go too far back, was that my mom was diagnosed with cancer,
Uh,
breast cancer, stage 2. Thankfully she recovered. She's been in remission for like the past 15, 16 years now.
oh, good.
But a few documentaries I had seen after that fact kind of triggered me to go into like that veganism thing.
Yep.
That was the protocol to go as far as health and then also with the weight loss piece of it, right? So
Yeah.
when I went into that, I consumed massive amounts of, all the green leafy vegetables,
Fiber. Yeah.
fiber. I went into like the whole foods, plant-based diet. I even juiced, bought a masticating juicer.
I got a nice $800 juicer in my cabinet right now.
Yeah, same thing.
Yep.
I have a
Yep.
really nice one. I paid a couple $100 for it. Now it's just gathering dust.
Yep.
I never use it, and my mom was actually asking for it the other day. You can have it if you want, but anyway, and this is where I started actually first developing gout, surprisingly.
Wow.
And I was consuming those massive amounts of spinach was like a favorite of mine.
Yep.
I was consuming anything that, a lot of we've been ingrained with thinking that green leafy vegetables and anything green is healthy, great for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I experienced like this pain after a long trail run I did, and I thought I just had sprained like my ankle, right? And it was painful, and it eventually went away after a few days, but then it just came back all of a sudden. And I was like, I was baffled. I didn't know what it was. At that point, I thought I had like broken my bone or something. Eventually went to the doctor. They diagnosed it, took a couple of visits. They just thought it was just sprained at first. They did like an x-ray. They said, oh, nothing's broken. I came back because I was still in pain. And then finally they were like, do you have a history of anything? And my dad has gout as well. It runs in him, and his brothers have it. And so I mentioned that to the doctor, and he said, yeah, that's it. And I'm like, and my thought process was that maybe, why is this happening? Because I wasn't as old as my dad was when he first experienced it. I was like in my mid-30s. I was pretty young, and you would mostly think that gout would be something that would happen to maybe someone a little bit older, right?
Yeah.
So I couldn't believe it. So at that point, I was prescribed medication for it, which is allopurinol to control the uric acid levels in your system, and then also colchicine, which is basically an anti-inflammatory pain medication. So I would take that like at an onset of any attacks, which a lot of times didn't even help. So because once those attacks happened, it was pretty much too late when you take that, and then So for me, it was not a pleasant couple years when I was having those chronic attacks.
Yes.
So that was the main health issue. But with the whole vegan thing, I went to that vegan honeymoon where I did feel like, other than that, when I wasn't having those gout flare-ups, I did lose a lot of that weight initially, right?
Oh, yeah.
Coming from standard American diet. And then also, it's like fasting, basically. It's like a fast.
It is. Yeah, it's calorie restriction, which will make you feel good. And then you're cutting out dairy and a few other, food groups. Yep. Now, were you doing plant-based when you started having the problems with the gout, or were you doing standard American diet when you started having problems with the gout?
When I first had those attacks, I was on veganism when I was doing vegan, actually.
Wow. Okay. So it was because what we hear so much is that gout is caused by too much meat. That's one thing I hear. So you were actually eating plant-based when the gout attacks began. Yep. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting.
What I suspect with that now too is that Sally Norton,
the oxalates, absolutely.
She talks a lot about oxalates, and what I suspect, and I don't know for sure, right? But I think what the type of gout that I have, I think, is really triggered by oxalates.
Wow. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of what general medicine knowledge tells you. Gout is from having too much uric acid in your system. Yeah. And, my doctor gave me a list of foods to avoid. On the top of that list, you'll see, there was like even like black beans, legumes, but also near the top of that was red meat.
Yes, that's what you always are told. Yeah.
Organ meats that were on that list, and amongst other stuff. So like the other low uric acid or low purine foods would have been like white rice or any like white bread. And so gosh. I kind of like threw my hands up in the air, and I kind of gave up because of any other protocols. And after doing that whole vegan, I went vegetarian because I wasn't feeling good. After a few months, I lasted the vegan, and I would be eating pretty much all day.
Oh yeah, that's the hard thing about it. You got to feed yourself constantly. You're never satisfied. Yeah.
It's expensive because I would always eat the organic stuff, because I would be at Sprouts. I was living in Arizona at the time, so we had Sprouts over there, and then I forgot the other grocery store that I always go to pick up all my organic produce and such. But after that, I introduced eggs and then some seafood, and I felt better. But then, I was still having my gout flare-ups because I was still consuming massive amounts of the greens.
Yes.
And that's where towards like after a year of that, doing, vegetarian, I just gave up and went back to just eating standard American diet. And so I was like, this isn't helping. Nothing's helping.
Yeah.
I went into that mindset that, this is, I just threw my hands up in the air. But then that's when I stumbled upon keto a few months later because I had gained a ton of weight back again.
Oh, yeah.
Went back to the standard American diet. And then I stumbled upon keto, and it helped tremendously at the beginning too, changing, obviously if you're going from eating processed foods and sugars and then going to another protocol. But for me, keto became more sustainable. And I was still consuming a lot of vegetables and greens.
Yeah.
But it did mitigate a lot of those gout flare-ups. I was still having them, but not quite as often. And I suspect that, some of that, the gout too has to do with insulin resistance. So there's a lot of different factors that's happening there. So it's really hard to tell. But I can tell you that for me, it's been just the well-being, right, and lifestyle when it comes to that. Because when I had those flare-ups, I could remember I would just be sitting on the couch or on the bed. I'll be not moving for like the next 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
It was impossible for me to do much because like every step you take was super painful. So
wow.
It's really about quality of life at that point. When I started feeling better, I wanted to find what else was causing those gout flare-ups. I did a lot of research because I couldn't have that. I mean, part of what led me to a lot of the weight gain too is I couldn't exercise. I couldn't do the things I wanted to do, like run.
Probably lots of depression, I would assume, as well.
I couldn't do those things. I couldn't help the kids. I would, but not be able to work. And for a couple of days until I felt better, because the medications most of the times were not even helping. And
wow.
So at that point, into my keto journey, that's when I ran into with the thing with oxalates, and maybe this has something to do with it. So I just totally decided to take that out. And the reason being too is I had a race. I can still remember this. This was about a year ago. I had a race, and the night before the race, I wanted to do an experiment where I wanted to introduce a little bit of carbs for the day race. So I would be burning off some glucose initially, and then I would switch to fat for like maybe the second part of this marathon I was doing. And then the morning of that race, when I ate like a sweet potato, but then the morning of that race, I immediately felt a pain when I got up on my knee. And I was like, oh man. I was like, don't tell me I'm having a flare up right before the race. I took a couple of a leave, and I was like, I'll do this and I'm gonna go because I prepared for this. So this isn't gonna stop me. And I still did it, and I still finished the race. I wasn't as fast because initially until that medicine kicked off, and then adrenaline just took over and completed the race anyway. So that's kind of what set a light bulb in my head and said to myself that maybe I'm gonna eliminate all of these plants. And that's when I did my little own carnivore experiment. So let me go for 10 days. I felt great. And then I went, all right, let me go for another week. And then eventually let's do the whole 30 days. And I just haven't stopped since. And I haven't had any gout flare-ups for a year, nearly a year.
Wow, that's amazing.
Not even like a whiff of it. And well, there's times during the year where, my children don't eat carnivore, or they eat
same. I mean, mine, it's fine. You're not going to get your carnivore card taken away for that.
But there was like a couple times where, they would have like pastries or whatever laying around. And then when I try that, I can immediately feel a little bit like the next day. And that's what keeps me from even like going off tracks, because I
Yes.
know it's going to be bad news. It's going to be pain, and it's going to be, the quality of life thing again. So that's why I don't even mess with it, like
Yeah.
even, because I have a huge sweet tooth, but I
Same.
noticed too over time I've been with carnivore is that, that has like the cravings have just gone away.
Yes.
That's what I've noticed. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and so that's where I'm at. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna do anything different than what I'm doing now, because it's helping me. I feel great. I can stay consistent with my training, with work, and help the kids out. And it's something that, I just learned is like taking mobility for granted, just being
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
from like sofa to the kitchen is huge. And then those are some of the things that I thought about too, especially when I made this decision. It's not just a matter of, a way of eating, it's the quality of life and
Yes.
being able to live life normal, right,
Yeah.
without any issues. So
Yeah. I think so often that we're told with food, like, oh, just live a little, just have the cake or have the ice cream. But what happens to people like you and I is like we have the cake or ice cream and then we have major consequences.
yeah,
You could be gout flare up, me could be crippling depression and bloating and, GI distress, and it just knocks you out and kind of puts you out of commission so that you can't enjoy life, you
yeah,
know? That's the ironic thing about when people say just live a little. It's like that's not my version of living. That's not the
exactly.
kind of living that is enjoyable to me. Is a little bit of mouth happiness for full body misery for a few days. No thank you. So it's a mindset, I think. And I love you have such on your Instagram page. I'll make sure to link up to that below this video, but you are just always positive. And not only are you positive, but I'm always watching you encourage other people on their page. Like you've always got something kind and positive to say to others. And I think that, that's another part of what this way of eating can do for someone is that it allows them to really experience life and be caring and supporting and kind to other people, because we're not miserable, we're not in pain all of the time. So it's awesome to watch you and see how much encouragement, how much kindness that you give back to the community. And I know you're doing some coaching now. I'll jump around a little bit with MeatRX. So you're really able to fully kind of give back now to other people. Tell me how that experience has been for you.
Yeah, it's been awesome actually, and I think that is something that I definitely been wanting to have that opportunity to be able to like share some of my experiences, but then also use some of the things that I've gone through to help others through their journey. And
Yeah.
I think, I've spoken with many people now doing the coaching, and just hearing some of their stories and where they're at in their journey, and then helping them along and maybe helping them avoid some pitfalls and maybe
Yes.
those things that I've experienced. But I think it's great. I mean, I've had one success story the other day where I had a client that emailed me their clean bill of health after doing carnivore for a few months, but only just for a few months. And then, she sent me some her like medical stuff. I don't want to go into the details of
Yeah.
it. You'll see it. She'll be sharing it on the MeatRX website. But
Wow.
to me, that makes me feel awesome, because others in the community are feeling well and it's feeling good. And that's the same for me, because, feeling, it's not about just looking good, but it's just feeling healthy and being able to have that extra energy now that you are healthier and have that extra energy. You can divert that to whatever it is that you want. You could
Yeah.
use that energy to run a marathon. You can use that energy to be even better at work or at your job or whatever it is you do, or being able to be a better parent to your kids
Yes.
or your relationship to whomever, because now, you have that health and that vitality, it's just coming out of you. You know, you
Yes.
handle it however you want. And I think having, you know, also the mental focus and the acuity, I think it just definitely is something that I wouldn't say I would never quite experience even when I was in my younger days, like in my 20s or 30s, that I have now, to where, you know, I have, you know, maybe it's also, you know, age and wisdom and knowledge, you know, maybe some of that too. But I think
Well,
just
you hear people say like they're getting older and they don't feel as sharp. Like that's what I hear. But
yeah,
people that I know that are carnivore and in this community, it's like we're getting older, but like we're not having that mental decline. And then I see people in their, 40s that look like they could pass for like early 30s.
exactly.
It's really cool. It's really cool to watch and get to see that. And I'm so glad that you're able to give back through
Yeah.
coaching. I know that that's like super, super rewarding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing I would love to always ask people is what is a typical day of eating like for you? Take me through a day of eating for you.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I consider myself like a minimalist carnivore.
Yeah.
So I know we're all busy. We
Yes.
all, you know, we all have a lot of things that happen throughout the day. But for me, I do pretty much OMAD, not really because I'm forcing myself to do it. It's just my body tells
It
me
works.
you just have to eat once a day, right? And if I need to
Yeah.
eat like a second meal, so be it. I'll do it. But as far as in the morning, is I have black coffee. Um, and that's it. I mean, I'll work throughout the day, go to the gym, work out fasted, and then I won't eat my first meal until around 5 or 6 o'clock. So I'll usually prepare like the kids' food. They'll eat right after school, like a little small snack, and then sometimes I'll go to the gym after that or before. It just depends on my schedule, but I won't eat until around 6 o'clock, and that's when I'll eat my first meal, which is usually lately it's just been like New York strips
Mm.
or ribeyes, and then I'll eat if I'm hungry or before that, I'll do some eggs and some bacon.
Yeah.
But I'm the type of person that can eat the same thing exactly the same every single day and not get tired of it.
Yeah.
Um, but also, I'm a budget shopper, so
Yeah.
I do like right before we were talking, I was on Publix looking to see what they had for sale this week in the meat section.
That's great
'Cause-
though. I mean, I
yeah,
think people they think that carnivore is expensive. That's one of the comments that I get more than anything. Well, no, I get a lot of other weird comments, but it's a misconception
yeah,
about this way of eating is that it's so expensive.
yeah. I'll
I
actually
found the opposite. What about you?
yeah, I think I save money by
Yeah.
eating just like a steak a day. And if I shop right and get the right prices, I'll load up, put it in the freezer, and then I'll have steaks for
Yeah.
like a couple of weeks or more. Or I go to Costco too. They have some pretty good sale prices. I stick to more, you know, the conventional grain fed. Once in a
Yeah.
while, I'll throw some grass fed in there. But for me, it really hasn't made a difference. So I mean, this is what my routine is now. Like in the past, I've tried other things. And if I need to, and I think what I am experiencing is that I think your body has reached some sort of equilibrium to where you filled like that nutrient tank in your body,
Yes.
then some of those other things you can kind of switch on or off. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is maybe you get some liver in there once in a while, maybe get some salmon roe in there once in a while. But I haven't been doing those quite too often, to be honest. But I feel great. I mean,
Yeah.
I do take the organ pills though. I do like an organ complex. I take that maybe 2, 3 days a week.
Okay. You feel a difference with those?
Yeah, I think it's helped. And it's just for the convenience too
Yeah.
factor of the organs. And then other than that, that's it. I mean, I drink a lot of mineral water, like the
Yeah.
Topo drink.
Yeah, I got mine. I think your page was like the first one where you had the Topo Chico. I was like, oh, I gotta try that. That looks really good. So yeah.
I do that, and I do whatever mineral water is around.
Yep.
Again, whatever's on sale, I'll buy
Yeah.
like Perrier or whatever. So, but
Yeah.
I like the fizzy
I do too.
sensation. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's pretty much My routine, as far as my day of eating, it's pretty simple. That's not to say I might. The only reason I change it up once in a while, though, is the kids, because they get tired of eating the same thing. They're not like me. They're like,
Same.
"Dad,
Yeah.
steaks again?" I'm like, or burgers. I'm like, well, let me buy some pork chops. We'll try some pork.
Yeah.
Like my son likes pork chops, and then I think earlier a couple of days ago, I just got an auto wild, so I've been
Oh
cooking.
yeah, I love that. Mine
My
is
favorite.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything else is gathering dust. Like I have my charcoal grill, and then I got my cast iron. So I've just been experimenting different cooking, different meats on the auto while. I tried pork belly, which came out pretty good the
Oh,
other day, a couple
wow.
weeks ago, and then some pork chops. And I was just thinking today what I was gonna get for the kids for dinner tonight, but I saw that the pork chops were on sale, so I might get that again. So
Nice. Nice. Tell me about your workouts because you have really, and I'll put up the picture like, before and after, but you're in like really great shape. Like, tell me about how your workouts are. Do you do pre-workout? Do you take any supplements? Just explain that process to me a little bit, or is it just steak?
yeah, so currently when I do my workouts, I was actually doing a little bit of experiments with pre-workouts in the ways of exogenous ketones,
Okay.
uh, because my workouts were going a little flat, meaning I wasn't really gaining energy, or I mean strength. So I wanted something to kind of give me an extra little push. So I've been playing around with exogenous ketones, really for that, just for that extra, because I naturally have, I test my ketones once in a while just to see
Hmm.
where they're at, just so I can visually see, and I can most of the time feel what, like the
Oh
energy.
yeah.
But and it's for me, I naturally have a higher ketone level and I don't know if my body's not efficient, but I think it is efficient because I'm pretty lean at burning
Yeah.
fat.
And you do
Uh,
OMAD too, so you're going like
yeah.
long, pretty long fasts in between your meals too. So that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, so when I do my workout routine, I usually work out about 5 days a week.
Okay.
Um, I've been focusing on multiple body parts, not just like your standard like bodybuilding workout. So I've been trying to do like a full upper body workout every other day, but then I would do a little bit of some minor workouts in between just to keep my body going, meaning just like some light cardio.
Gotcha.
And but for the most part I've been just experimenting with the ketones, and they seem to have been taking me off of that plateau with my workouts, giving me that extra little push. But right now for me it's a fine balance, because what I do is I work out but I like to run, and those are some.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that next. I know are you still doing races and yeah.
It's kind of conflicting, right? Because if you
Yeah.
have too much muscle mass, you don't want to carry that. Because I like to do like half marathons. I used to do longer, like the full marathons, but the training on those are just
Oh, it's brutal. I've done a marathon before. It's absolutely
yeah,
brutal on your body. Yeah.
consuming. And so the half marathon is like that perfect balance for me, where
Mhm.
it's long enough, but it's not too strenuous to where it's like a full. So, 13 miles is just a good distance. I actually have a race on the 2nd of February is my next one that's coming up.
Okay.
Um, so that's why I tried to stay somewhat lean, but still keep my muscle mass. And how I keep that balance is just I don't do super heavy weights at the gym. I just do moderate weights
Okay.
when I'm doing the racing thing. But then if I don't have any races, then I'll put on that extra mass, and I'll lift heavier at the gym and focus more on the strength. But for me, I also use fat as a lever. So what I mean by that is, if I wanted to get extra lean and maybe shed a little bit of extra body fat,
Mm-hmm.
then I would focus on leaner meats, right? So
Gotcha.
I would basically, it's like a protein sparing modified fast protocol.
Okay.
So I would basically just eat. I don't like chicken at all. I hate
No, me neither.
like chicken breast is so dry. But I'll just do like a leaner piece of beef, like a sirloin, or even a New York strip is pretty lean compared to a ribeye. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll focus on that, and then I can notice, like if I do that protocol for a week, I'll already shed pounds and just like that. And and lose that extra body fat. And I could tell in the mirror, I'll start looking leaner. To whereas if I was trying to bulk a little bit more, then I'll up the fats, so that the dietary fat, so then my body's not dipping into my fat stores. It's just taking fat from the diet and using that as energy right away. So then that's when I will eat like more ribeyes. I'll go after the oxtails or get those extra niblets of fat from the butcher.
Yes, those are the best.
Those are the best when you make them nice and crispy. I call them little beef chicharrones, like the beef ones. So yeah, definitely upping the fats ups basically my energy levels, and I feel better when I have more fats in my diet. So that's the difference. So there's a trade-off there that I play around with myself that works for me, to where if I do the leaner and I get leaner, but I don't have as much energy, although my body's still using the fat as energy. I think it's just a little bit, it consumes more calories too. So I go into a little bit more of a calorie deficit. So that's the trade-off if I want to play around with like the way I do my workouts. And, for me, what I've realized is like the last year, I mean, my body reacts exactly how I want it to react based on those protocols that I've been doing. That's just by observing, closely observing what I do, and then just sticking to it and just having that discipline for like that week or those couple weeks to get to my goals currently. So
nice.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what I do from like a dietary workout perspective, to where, when I go to the gym, it's my protocol, like I mentioned, it's just a lot of weight training. And then if I do cardio, it's usually running in the treadmill or running outside. So.
Cool.
Rowing. I've been into rowing too.
Oh, so. Yeah, because Dr. Baker is all into the rowing. Yeah, so you're doing rowing now too, huh?
I'll get on that rowing machine to do some sprints, and it's low impact. So that's what I like about rowing. It's easier on the knees for like recovery days, but you still get some good cardio and even a little bit of body weight training, because you're using your body weight for that too when you're doing the rowing. So yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Cool. Well, I guess what piece of advice would you give anyone who's maybe struggling and wants to do carnivore, but is just like, oh, it's too extreme. I just don't, I don't think it's for me, but they're still having a bunch of issues. Like, what would your, from Mike, personal advice be to that person?
My personal advice to that person would be, if whatever protocol that you're on right now is not working and it's not making you feel good, or you're still having some issues, health-wise, or you just want more energy, and whatever you're doing right now is not working for you, change it up and try it, And what I said, and that's kind of like the same mentality that I went into, and just be objective about it and be resilient to what your goals are, and be open-minded to eventually try to get to what your goals, which would be, let's say if it's weight loss, then you're going to have to change things up, or for energy you have to change things up, or if you have an issue or a health issue that's bothering you, then for me it's like it makes sense to change what you're doing to see if it helps out, right?
Yeah.
And if, let's say, maybe carnivore is not for you, but give it a try for 10 days. Maybe if you feel good, then extend it. I think ideally, it would be 30 days would be the best way, because there's an adaptation phase when it comes to carnivore, just depending on where you're at. So if you're coming from keto like me, the adaptation phase was minimal. Actually, I just got better. My digestion got better because I eliminated that extra fiber, right? So I didn't have to go through like that fat adaptation. So I didn't really have any of those symptoms that a lot of folks get when they convert over to carnivore, let's say from a standard American diet or from any other protocol. But eat to satiety, meaning that, a lot of, if you're new to carnivore, a lot of folks that tend to not stick to it, it's because they're not eating enough, right? So don't be afraid to eat enough meat, even if you need to eat 2 pounds of beef or 3 pounds of beef that day. That's what's going to help you stick to it, because then that's going to curb any of those potential cravings. And eat the foods that you like, right? So if you don't like the foods that are on that on carnivore, then you're not going to have that compliance, right? So if it's beef, if it's pork, if it's whatever it is that you like, cook it the way you like to cook it.
Yes.
Because ultimately, this is what you want to adhere to in the long term to have that long-term success. Because if you don't like it or if it's inconvenient, then you're going to veer off and then you're just going to go off tracks. And I think to be successful at something, you have to like what it is, and it has to be easy for you to be able to do. And that's what I like about carnivores. For me, it fits my lifestyle perfect. It's minimalistic.
Yes.
It's easy to cook. And it's delicious. I never get tired of it.
Yep.
Every single time. It's cliche, like my parents will ask, don't you ever get tired of eating steak or beef?
No.
As soon as I take that first slice and I put that in my mouth, I'm like, oh, this is delicious.
Yes, I feel the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my tips for success. And to someone that's changing it up, try it out for 10 days, extend it further if you feel great, because a lot of the changes that will happen are sometimes not immediate, but you will notice changes after a few days of just eating carnivore. And a lot of that has to do with just eliminating maybe some deleterious foods that were maybe what was causing some of the issues that you were having. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so if someone wanted to work with you, they could find you on MeatRX, right?
Yeah, absolutely. MeatRX. You could book a coaching session with me on the calendar. And yeah, it's a great platform. It's very affordable. It's $17.99 for like a half-hour session.
Oh, that's great. That's really great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There's a bunch of great information on the MeatRx website. They have a library of knowledge and things like that. You can even post questions and so forth. So
nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. And I know this is going to help a lot of people. I'm trying to have people from all walks of life. And I love your story. And I think it's going to help a lot of people. So thank you for sitting down with me and talking today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome.